genre.
The weekly podcast where we review and discuss every episode of Doctor Who, one doctor at a time. I'm Cassandra Fredrickson.
I'm Nick Jimenez.
And I'm Scott Corelli.
And today on the show, we'll be discussing Black Orchid, the Fifth Doctor's fifth story. Yeah.
Yeah, Black Orchid.
A lot of dancing in this one, guys.
So Black Orchid is a story that is very, very unpopular among classic Who fans, especially especially old school fans.
Okay,
they hate this story. It has made a lot of like worst of lists.
Oh, it's not that bad.
It's not bad. I think it's one of the best Fifth Doctor stories, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
I love Black Orchid, but it is not. And I think that it has earned a place in a sort of I don't know. It has a resurgence of popularity where people are sort of revisiting it. Newer classic Who fans like us are revisiting it and being like, "What are you guys talking about? This story's great." So that's been happening a lot. But yeah, I mean, at the time it was not viewed very well. That had a big part of that was the fact that, Black Orchid was the first Doctor Who story without any science fiction stuff since 1967. Wow. That was the last time the Highlanders, which we have covered already. The Highlanders happened, and then that was the last historical until Black Orchid.
What?
Yeah, pure historical. Yep. So Black Orchid was kind of a big deal for that, but apparently Doctor Who fans had moved on from that sort of story, and that's not what they wanted the show to be. So everyone decided that this episode was garbage, boring garbage. It's neither of those things. So the other thing is that it's two parts, which this was the first two-part story since the Centauran experiment in 1975. And it was accidentally a two-part story. So what happened was that John Nathan Turner had he had secured a budget for 28 episodes a season when he took over the show with the 18th season, the final Tom Baker season. Mm-hmm. And 28 episodes, which allowed for a perfect set of 4-part stories. And the reason for that was that John Nathan Turner really didn't like 6-part stories and felt that that tradition had been sort of, the world had moved on from that. And that 6-part episodes couldn't really hold any water anymore. So he wanted strictly 4-part stories, and that's what he did in season 18. When it came to season 19, he secured exactly the same budget, but he also wanted to try and stretch out Doctor Who and film a pilot for a spinoff. And that spinoff was going to be the 1-hour pilot for K9 and Company, which was going to star Elizabeth Sladen and K9 as basically alien detectives. I don't know. But yeah, they were gonna solve stuff. She was gonna, it was basically a precursor to what would become later on the Sarah Jane Adventures. It was sort of a 1980s equivalent of that. And he wanted to go shoot this pilot. Well, the BBC wouldn't give him any more money for it. they're like, just take it out of the Doctor Who budget. So rather than taking out the budget entirely out of like stories and making a cheaper season, instead he just subtracted 2 episodes budget and gave it to K9 and Company, which meant that there needed to be a 2 episode story in season 19. And that brought us to Black Orchid, which is written by Terrence Dudley, the guy who did 4 to Doomsday. And to be totally honest, I didn't know that it was the same guy. And then when I read this background, I was like, oh, that makes complete sense. Because this feels so much like 4 to Doomsday in that it's like a bunch of people hanging out doing weird stuff. And the Doctor and his companions are just there checking it out and hanging out with everybody. Like it's like kind of the same vibe. So he was like, yeah, I've got this idea for an Agatha Christie story. It's a murder mystery with the Doctor and Cricket and, 1925 England and this whole thing. And, they approved it, but, they were, a little trepidatious about the idea of, it only being, just like being a pure historical, but they rolled with it. And then they ended up giving it to, it was actually, it wasn't Nathan Turner who disliked the idea, but it was like everyone else involved. And so Nathan Turner for a certain point, he was going to direct it himself because no one else, saw merit in it. But ultimately, the production of K9 and Company stopped him from doing that. So instead, he tried to find a director who had never worked before, and he found Ron Jones, who had done like he had directed a couple of segments on Blue Peter, and he had recently completed BBC's director's course, which was something that they put stage directors and production managers and things on to become directors. And he had just recently completed that and as a result got those segment gigs on Blue Peter. And Nathan Turner liked what he did there, and so he offered him this story, and obviously Ron Jones took it in a heartbeat, and then would actually go on to direct Time Flight later on. So not that that's anything to brag about,
Right.
but it's it's a really fun story. And the thing that I'll say about it is I think this is the most Fifth Doctor story, period. Like this is the one where I'm just like, oh, this is where he belongs, is in a story like this. Like this is perfect for him.
Yeah.
So I really like that. Overall, I mean, there's not any crazy behind the scenes drama. It's very straightforward. Mostly it was, it's just the fault of K9 and Company that it exists, but, that's it. And, it's a good one.
It's another great thing that little robot dog has done for us.
Yeah, it's true. You've heard that he's coming back, right? In the new season?
What?
Oh, have you not heard that?
No.
Oh, yeah.
Really?
Yeah, he's back in the new season.
Oh my god.
In what capacity? And what do we know? Like what?
We don't know everything. We just know that she has been seen filming scenes with K9 at her side.
Oh my god, yes.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Oh man, guys.
Wait, okay, so she has 3 companions and K9?
Apparently.
Wow.
That's...
All right.
Oh my god.
Party bus TARDIS.
It is a part. Yeah, it's the fun of it.
So that's so that's Black Orchid. Speaking of things that K9 has given unto us. There's also this really great bit where Matthew Waterhouse hated dancing because he's a child. He was a boy child and didn't like dancing. And so he didn't want to learn the choreography. So he was like, hey, so maybe instead of dancing, maybe Adric is like really hungry and just wants to hang out at the buffet table. And they're just like, whatever, man. I'm not.
Dude, it's fine.
Yeah.
Just say you don't want to dance.
Matthew Waterhouse being, notoriously difficult to work with. So there you go. All right. Well, so part 1.
Black Orchid Part 1, written by Terrence Dudley, directed by Ron Jones, produced by John Nathan Turner, script edited by Eric Sayward, air date March 1st, 1982. The TARDIS lands at an empty train station platform in rural England in the 1920s. The Doctor and his companions, Adric, Nyssa, and Tegan, walk around to the front of the station and find a chauffeur who says he's been waiting for the Doctor. Confused but also delighted, the Doctor and his companions go with the driver and arrive at Cranley Hall. Once there, the Doctor plays cricket at the behest of Lord Charles Cranley, and he and his companions are invited to a masquerade ball afterwards. In the sitting room of the large manor house, the Doctor sees a black orchid in a display case and asks about it. Lady Cranley explains that her eldest son George was a botanist and was unfortunately killed in an expedition to the Amazon. Further conversation is interrupted by the appearance of Lord Charles, accompanied by his fiancée Anne, who looks exactly like Nyssa. After introductions, the TARDIS crew head up to their rooms to prepare for the ball. As the Doctor is bathing, someone uses a secret passage to access his room and steal the Harlequin costume and mask provided for him. Curious about the noise, he investigates, and ends up trapped in the secret passage as the door locks behind him. As he investigates the passageway, the Doctor stumbles across a dead body in a storage closet. At the party, Nyssa and Anne wear matching costumes and masks as a prank. Tegan dances and Adric eats a bunch of food. The mysterious figure in the stolen costume whisks Anne away in a dance, which leads the two of them back inside, away from the party outside. When she tries to head back to the party, the mysterious figure suddenly becomes violent, and when a servant comes to Anne's aid, the figure strangles him. Anne faints.
Opens with a strangulation, which is probably one of the most abrupt openings to it. I mean, it's, and yet,
yeah. It does set the tone.
It does. It does. But I just love that you're just like, we open on feet and like somebody getting strangled and then dropped to the ground. That is, it's such a dynamic way to open a story, and it's not what you're used to from Classic Who. You're not, there's not a lot of dynamic moments in Classic Who. And so,
sure.
It's impressive to me. It feels very modern. This whole story feels more modern than dated to me. On the writing side.
It reminded me more than anything else, just top to bottom, of the Unicorn of the Wasp.
Oh yeah, of course. Well, Agatha Christie. Yeah.
And I just, especially coming off of Revenge of the Cybermen, which felt very laborious and kind of bloated. I thought this story was so swift, and not just because it was 2 parts, but just it was just like a quick little novella.
Yeah. So
yes, the strangulation.
Yeah, so the strangulation, and then somebody else comes and takes the person who killed the other person away and ties him to a bed, and we don't see anyone. We just see feet and hands and necks, and that's it. It's really you could tell that Ron Jones was really trying to show off as a director, having never done it before. He had something to prove. And I think he proved it. I think he did a really good job with the story, to be honest. I think it's really good. Even if Time Flight leaves a lot to be desired. But I don't blame him for that.
No, I don't either.
So the TARDIS arrives at the train station, and they're like, "Oh, like what are we doing? What are we doing here?" And he's like, I don't know how to control this thing. and they all leave. And I love that moment where Tegan's like, Tegan's like, wow, this is before I was born, and and the doctor just turns to her and goes, yeah, amazing, right? Like it's just like, you're in a time machine, right?
Did you forget?
Did you forget how this works? What? I loved that. Again, talking about a thing that connects doctors together. Like, that was a very like Tom Baker thing to do. It's like, just make fun of your companion for being a moron.
But he does that constantly with Tegan, though. Like, and it's only Tegan.
Yeah. Well, Adric gets it a lot in the next story.
That's true. Poor Adric.
And then, yeah. Anyway, okay. So they show up at this train station, and they're like walking around because they're just like, why did the TARDIS bring us here? And this chaperone guy is like, this driver has like a sign, and he's like waiting for the doctor, and the doctor's like, oh, check this out. Yes, I'm the doc. He's like, yes, I'm the, I'm hello. And he's just like, oh, we've been waiting for you. He's like, oh, have you? And he's like, yes, you're the doctor, right? And he's like, what? Yeah, yes. And it's the best like backfiring of a moment for the doctor, because he's just like, I'm going to take advantage of this driver guy, and then he's actually waiting for him. The doctor's like so thrown. Mm-hmm. It's great. I love that. But we get
and it's an example of why this episode feels more modern than other classic Who's. It's a little more self-aware.
Yeah, totally. So the driver gets really distracted by Nyssa, and Nyssa's just like, Nyssa doesn't put up with nobody's crap, and she's just like, why are you staring at me? And he's like, oh, I'm sorry. And he's like really embarrassed and looks away, and then takes them out to this mansion. And there's a cricket game going on, and they basically brought the doctor out to play cricket, and the doctor just like goes for it. And he's
like, this is the greatest day of my entire life.
Oh my God, we just get treated to like a 5-minute sequence of just watching the doctor play cricket.
And I really, maybe I'm being too insecure about this, but it reminded me a lot of the Lodger.
Yeah, with the soccer game.
When 11 is just, I like those moments where the doctor is allowed to just be a jock.
Yeah. Yeah. I just like where he's like allowed to just do really normal things,
Yeah, and have fun.
Yeah.
And enjoy himself.
And he's like, and it's so long that like first he goes up to bat and he bats like 7 times and like scores them like 700 million points. And then they're like, oh, do you want to pitch? And he's like, great, I'm great at pitching. And then he pitches like a whole round. And it's just, you think when he's done batting, you think it's done. And then they're like, oh no, now we're going to get a pitching montage. It's amazing. It's amazing. This episode, this is only a 2-part episode, and there's filler. It's incredible. I love it. That's why I love this story, is because it's just so chill. It's got a real chill vibe to it. So there's that really great moment where they take him into the house, and they're just like, they're talking about the master of the house, but they just keep calling him the master, and the doctor goes, the master?
Yeah.
And they're just like, yes, of the house. And he's like, oh, right. Yes, of course.
Oh, right. Yeah.
I love that. And then we meet Nyssa's doppelganger, which I hate the doppelganger trope. I hate it. In stories. It's so tedious and fake, and it's just the most TV movie thing. And I despise it. I really, really do. I mean, I assume it all kind of started with The Prince and the Pauper. It's probably the first like,
oh yeah, true,
kind of like doppelganger story, but like it happens all the time, and I hate it. At least in the case of The Parent Trap, they're like actual twins, not like just random happenstance of DNA that allows them to look like they're exactly the same person.
Sure.
Literally, like Nyssa is from another planet and yet has a doppelganger on Earth. It is...
Oh my God, Scott! Please never watch Jupiter Ascending.
I won't. I'm good.
It's wonderful, but yeah. Anyway.
It's very wonderful.
That's literally the plot of the movie.
I hate doppelgangers. It's so stupid. Anyway, but
you look like my mom. Sorry, I can't not think about that movie and not think about Eddie.
Yeah,
Eddie
yeah, that's fair. Oh
that's
my god,
that's the first thing I thought of. I was like, oh, does Eddie Redmayne have a doppelganger?
Off camera, before the movie starts, Channing Tatum's character attacks Eddie Redmayne's character and rips out his throat.
Wow. All right. Well,
and I only know that because I read an interview somewhere. That's not in the movie at all.
So I don't like the doppelganger trope, but but I will say, Nyssa's doppelganger, who obviously is played by Sarah Sutton, with her 1920s bob, is just the most adorable person on the planet. And
yeah, I was into her whole life.
Yeah, I was like, can they trade places for a little while? Just for funsies? Just to see what that's like? I don't know. She was great.
You know who would have been great to have a doppelganger as Susan? If Susan just had a really cool doppelganger that was that had I have friends my own age.
She's got those big Jackie O white sunglasses.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Very chic.
Yes. Chic.
Hey.
Oh my god.
That's there's one person listening to this going, hey, I get that reference. Anyway. So I did that just for Nick.
It's like a magic trick.
So chic. Tegan, so they're all invited to the party, this little dinner party, this costume party that they're doing, and Tegan gets her outfit. I love her Tinkerbell dress.
Mm-hmm.
It is awesome.
Yeah, and it's moments like that where it's it's fun. The characters get to dress up, and someone has a twin. It feels very fun.
Well, and it's very modern again, because we're so used to watching this show where the character, the doctor, but even the companions just wear the same outfit all the time, like it's a uniform.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And in Modern Who, we're used to the companion having a different outfit every episode and getting to dress up in the time period and everything. And we so rarely get that in Classic Who that when we get it here, it just feels so modern. The idea that they're all wearing different costumes for a story is just crazy. I mean, later in the story, so the doctor gets a Harlequin costume that he's going to put on, and he goes to sort of freshen up, and he gets undressed and puts on a paisley robe, and someone, the foot murderer, takes. We only see their feet for a really long time. The foot murderer steals the Harlequin outfit to go murder some people in it, and when the doctor comes out and sees that it's gone, he finds the secret passage that the guy came through, and it goes through it and then gets locked in there in his paisley robe. Mm-hmm. So for a whole episode, he's just bumming around going on a paisley robe adventure.
It is something else. It is pretty choice.
Oh my god, he awesome.
No other doctor could have ever worn a robe as well.
I think David Tennant pulled off a robe in
that's
Christmas
very true.
Invasion.
That's very true. Yeah, he's very like bedtime story.
Yeah, but he's based on his doctor was 5, so that checks out.
Oh my god, yeah. Wow, bathrobes. I mean, yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, totally. I also loved how Tegan and her doppelganger are just instant besties.
Yes, I like that. I liked how it wasn't two people not trusting each other.
Yeah, okay. They're not competitive. They're just wow, we look the same. Let's be friends. And then they skip straight to Act 2 of The Parent Trap.
Yeah.
They're just wearing they get the same costume, and they're wearing the same butterfly costume with the same headdress so that they can troll everyone into not knowing which is which. Which
ends up being not a great idea.
No, not a great idea. But I do really like that. But then this ends with the foot murderer in the Harlequin outfit, coming across. He attacks the Tegan's doppelganger.
Nyssa's doppelganger.
Or Nyssa's doppelganger. And then attacks her, and then somebody comes out to stop them, and then they get into what I can only describe as a choking contest. Because they're both choking each other simultaneously and basically seeing who chokes out the other one first.
It's like Murder Chicken.
Yeah, it is. It's Murder Chicken. And that's the cliffhanger, is the choking contest.
I love
great.
this story. Unironically, I love this story.
Yeah, not even like in a so bad it's good. I thought it was like really
like
fun.
this is my jam, because it's super like weird and like weirdly Victorian but 20s, and like super Jane Eyre and like Phantom of the Opera, and I'm just like, this is my stuff.
Yeah, we need it. I mean, all of Caves of Androzani notwithstanding. Mm-hmm. Because Caves of Androzani isn't necessarily a great Fifth Doctor story. It's just a great episode of Doctor Who. Like, you could probably put any Doctor in that story and it would be just as good.
Okay.
But the Fifth Doctor's best stories, the ones that are like his, that feel like his, are always ones that have that sort of Victorian and or 1920s element to them. Because even Enlightenment sort of has that vibe to it. Yeah. And it's one of his best stories because he just fits so well in that world.
Yeah, it's like
he's a gentleman.
Yes, his version of masculinity really plays well to that society. So I think people in that society are like, oh, we understand this dude.
Yeah.
Where it's like 4 would have been like, what the kids, get away from that crazy man.
Right.
Which again is very, very Tennant. Tennant was a user-friendly Doctor.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's true. And some of his best stories were ones like that. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
When I loved Unicorn and the Wasp when I revisited it, and
or even like in a dark way, I could see 5 being really interesting in what's that one where him and Donna go on a vacation and then he goes on a bus by himself.
Oh yeah.
Midnight.
What is that episode? Midnight. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Midnight. Yeah.
Yeah. He would be great in that story.
Because he's like the most decent one, and to see him get like challenged in that way,
right? As
existentially.
Totally. And then, and he would be great in 5 would be great in Girl in the Fireplace.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Oh wow, yeah.
It's interesting. You could really swap 10 and 5 a lot. For a lot of their stories. Oh my God. Can you imagine 10 in Caves of Androzani? Oh, wow. I love that. No?
You
don't think so?
Oh, she's thinking about it. I don't know. Yeah. I haven't seen it yet.
Yeah, I know you haven't.
Because Caves is such like to me, it's like such a quintessentially 5 story.
Interesting.
I
don't know. I don't know if I agree that it is, but I love it. I love it. I think it's one of the best, if not the best, classic Who story, period. But
it's weird because that's not even my favorite Fifth Doctor story.
Right. See, but that's what I mean. It's not my favorite Fifth Doctor story, but it's my favorite story of classic Who.
That's okay.
That shouldn't make sense. Except that I think it works. It would work for any Doctor. I really do. Anyway, maybe not the first Doctor, but everybody else.
Oh no, the first Doctor would be like, I don't care about. Let's leave.
Yeah, let's get out of here. I'm getting out of here, and you're not going to stop me.
5 minutes into the first episode, and it's just done.
Get out of my way.
Anyway. So episode 2.
Black Orchid Part 2. Written by Terrence Dudley. Directed by Ron Jones. Produced by John Nathan Turner. Script edited by Eric Sayward. Air date March 2nd, 1982. The Doctor finds Lady Cranley and her servant Latoni in one of the secret passages and shows them the body. He agrees to not tell the other guests to avoid causing panic and returns to his room where the stolen costume is waiting for him. The doctor puts it on, unaware of what happened downstairs. In one of the rooms off the secret passage, Anne wakes on a strange bed as her assailant hides under it. Panicking, she runs out the door and straight into Lady Cranley, who consoles her. Latoni ties up the mysterious figure, who has a disfigured face and no tongue. The body of the strangled servant has been discovered, and as the doctor comes downstairs in his costume, Anne points to him as the murderer. The doctor tries to explain that there's been a misunderstanding and looks to Lady Cranley to corroborate his story, but she refuses, and the doctor and his companions are taken into police custody and head to the police station for further questioning. On the way, the doctor begs to stop at the railway station to get back to the TARDIS, but the TARDIS is no longer there. As it turns out, the TARDIS has been brought to the police station, and the doctor opens it and invites the police chief inside to prove his trustworthiness. They all use the TARDIS to return to the manor. Back at the house, the mysterious figure has escaped its restraints, attacking Latoni and setting the door on fire in order to escape the room. He makes his way downstairs as Charles, Anne, and Lady Cranley are speaking. Startled, he runs into the doctor and his companions and grabs Nyssa, taking her with him back upstairs into the rapidly spreading fire. Lady Cranley finally explains that the figure is her son George, who was maimed during his expedition and has been living in the house in secret ever since. Anne was previously engaged to George, explaining his earlier kidnapping, but the doctor is concerned for Nyssa's safety once George realizes he has the wrong girl with him. The doctor attempts to make his way up through the house to get to him as Charles climbs up the side, where they confront George on the roof. The doctor coaxes George to let go of Nyssa, and Charles tries to embrace his long-lost brother, but George slips and falls off the roof to his death.
Episode 2, we get the lady of the house having a really weird reaction to a dead body, and then having a lot of weird reactions to further dead bodies.
Yes.
She is so chill.
She is.
And I don't know if this is on purpose, but you can't tell if it's just like that generational resolve that upper class people had, but then it's like, oh wait, this person actually might be legit hiding something.
Right. Right. There is, if I had to point out a weak part of this story, I would say it's her character, because, she kind of fulfills a Deus Ex Machina of conflict, where like there would be no conflict in this story if she wasn't just like lying through her teeth.
Yeah.
Constantly.
Yes, and then she's
so easily forgiven at the end of the story.
Yeah, it's funny that we're talking about doppelgangers, because one of my pet peeves when it comes to stories, and maybe it's I've been infected with improv, because we're taught in improv this is a very like bad cricket, as the doctor might say, in keeping secrets. Like, for example, if we were doing a scene where Cassandra and I were throwing Scott a birthday party, it wouldn't be good improv for him to be like, well, but he can't know about it. Because then the whole scene is keeping the ball away from Scott and not moving the story forward. It's more interesting for Scott to learn about the birthday, and then it's not right, or he reacts in a different way. And so watching this story, I was like, I was getting so frustrated with her being like, no, I didn't see anything. 'Cause like, you're stopping the story from moving forward. Like, and I found that interesting. I was like, oh, that's interesting that I don't like that a lot.
Yeah.
And so much of Doctor Who is like, in Revenge of the Cybermen, there was like a dude who was like a secret agent. There's a lot of Doctor Who stories are keeping secrets or lying or deception, just to kind of keep the story going a little longer.
Right. But in this one in particular, it's just like, it's really distracting. Like, it's literally, the second story is just the Doctor leading the cops around.
Yeah.
To places where stuff should be, and they're not there.
He gets arrested. Like,
yeah. It's just
they get. There's a great shot of the whole gang in the back of a cop car, just kind of looking like glum.
Right. Well, I mean, because
this stinks.
And then the idea of like Nyssa's doppelganger just being like, just so adamant that it was the doctor that tried to kidnap her and killed that guy, just because they're in the same costume. Like, come on, man. Like, it's not. I mean, it's really easy to explain that someone else may have been wearing this costume. It was just really frustrating, I guess, to watch. And maybe it was supposed to. It was supposed to be, but it was frustrating in like a way that I was like, I don't know if this is the best way to write this.
Right.
I was a little underwhelmed by the reveal of the foot murderer's facial scars, because it wasn't really a reveal. It was just like they've been hiding him the whole story, and then he just like walks up to the bed like it's nothing, and he's got all these horrible facial scars, and you're like, oh no.
Yeah.
And to be completely in the spirit of honesty, we were talking last week about how a corpse that was supposed to be alien didn't look alien at first. My first instinct was that this guy was an alien.
Fair.
That's funny.
Yeah, that's fair. And he just lets her go, because he successfully kidnaps her, knocks her out, drags her back to his room, and then she wakes up in the bed after he like tucks her in, like real creepy. And then she bolts upright and then just runs for the door and leaves, and he just lets her. And then the dude that they keep referring to as an Indian, which is really jarring throughout the story every time.
His character was very jarring.
Yeah, just in general. But not unlike the characters in Fort of Doomsday.
Yeah.
In fact, I would venture a guess that they were using some of the same costuming for him.
That makes sense.
Yeah. But yeah, and he's like describing him, and it makes him sound crazy, because he's just like, no, there was a body in the closet, and the Indian, there was an Indian from Brazil, and he had a thing in his lip, and the cops are just like, okay then. Doctor's just like, I know what this sounds like. I love frazzled Fifth Doctor.
Yes, yeah.
It's
like, oh, I actually think I'm not going to be able to get out of this.
Yeah, he's one of the only doctors that it's like 5 and 2 that are the ones that can seem the most frazzled, and it's fine. And it works for the character. I can't imagine.
It was fun to see frazzled.
Was he frazzled like that though? Very much?
Yeah, maybe not. I guess when he was with Donna, he was. I like disoriented 10.
Oh yeah.
Like Titanic coming through the TARDIS.
Yeah.
Like
right.
What? Yeah.
What? Yeah. No, that. I mean, that's iconic. But I don't know if I'd call that frazzled more than like overwhelmed.
Is such a liquidy word.
Yeah. True.
Maybe my frazzle's different than what you're thinking.
Maybe. But yeah, and he's just like, okay, you know what? I'm just going to tell you the truth. I'm a Time Lord. I'm a time traveler. You read H.G. Wells, right? You know.
That was great. And then was like, I'm familiar with him, yes.
And he's like, I'll take you. I'm going to show you something at the train station. They go, but then of course the TARDIS isn't there. So he's like, oh, man, I just can't can't catch a break. And then finally he's so happy to have found the TARDIS. They the train people wheeled it off of the platform, which, yeah, fair. It's taking up space. Get it out of there.
Hey, what the hell is that doing there?
Yeah. They wheel it out like off to the side, and they find he's just like, just come in here. I don't want to deal with this anymore. Like, it's so funny because I feel like there's so many Doctor Who stories that could be 2 parts if the Doctor were just like, look at this thing.
Yeah.
Right? I'm right.
Yeah.
Just listen to me.
And that's what I really appreciate. I kept going back to the word swift. It just felt like a very swift story with not a huge amount of fat. And I think it was more enjoyable because of it. I actually am really surprised that this is an episode that is remembered so harshly.
Yeah. There's that great moment that I just like, you guys couldn't get anything else. Where Adric is at the food, is at the buffet, and he's eating a plate of food, And,
Right,
and it's full. It's like a full plate. It's just like towering over of food. And Nyssa comes over and is just like, "Oh my God, you pig. Look at all that food. Is that a second helping, you monster? You fat, chubby, fat pig monster." And Adric is just like, "Oh, leave me alone. I skipped breakfast." And you look at what's on his plate and it's literally lettuce, celery, and beets.
And then like a piece of chicken.
And a piece of chicken. And she's just like, "You pig, you monster." And I just like, he's eating very healthy. Like, leave him alone. My God.
I love the idea of Matthew Waterhouse just wandering away from craft services with that same plate, and then they like go to film the take, and he's just eating his lunch while they like film.
His lunch is a boiled chicken and some beets and celery and lettuce.
Here you go.
Oh my God. So anyway, so they take the TARDIS back over to the mansion, and they find out about this guy. Now, okay, so his deal was that he went to Brazil and got his face melted and went crazy. Is that right?
Yeah.
He was like an explorer.
Yeah.
And he
like stole the pretty flower that they worshipped as a god.
Right.
And then
the black orchid.
Yeah, and then they were just like, "Well, you gotta pay, my dude." And so they like scarred him and cut out his tongue, and then he went crazy, and I don't know.
Right. And he's doppelganger Nyssa's brother. Is that right?
No, they were engaged. And
They
now
were engaged.
like,
Whose brother is he then?
he's
someone's brother.
He's the
lady.
No, he's
the guy.
the current fiance's brother. So like basically like
wow.
she was engaged to the older brother. The older brother went crazy, and then the younger brother was like, "I'll protect you." And that it's uncomfortable.
Oh boy.
It's.
I feel like
very,
I've seen
it's
that.
very of the era.
Isn't that's a thing in a lot of movies, right? Where one brother replaces the dead brother.
Probably.
I feel like that as a husband. I feel like that happens a lot in movies.
Yeah.
Prison. What's that movie with Tobey Maguire where he like comes back from war?
Brothers.
Brothers. Yes.
Oh
man.
So anyway,
God, pick a better.
So anyway, so yeah, he just wants his fiance back, but he's also crazy and doesn't have a tongue and horribly scarred. And his brother is like, he finds out the truth that he's not dead and that he's been living in the house and is a monster and whatever. And he is like very adamant. He's like, "Look, because what happens is like the guy, the foot murderer, like he kidnaps Nyssa thinking that it's his fiance, and takes her, he sets the mansion on fire and then goes to the roof and, with Nyssa. And then, I guess his name is George. George does this. So is it a George of the Jungle reference? Is it, because he was in the jungle, Brazilian jungle.
It must be like that's a hell of a coincidence. Otherwise,
yeah. Right. So George takes Nyssa to the George the foot murderer takes takes Nyssa to the roof, and his brother, Nyssa's doppelganger's fiance and George's brother, comes on the roof too. The doctor comes from the other side and they surround him and they explain that that's not Anne, his fiance, that's this other woman. And he looks down and sees Anne down below and is like, "Oh, okay." And then lets her go. And the doctor's like, "Oh, thank you. And then George's brother, Charles, is just like, "Oh, thank you so much, George." And then goes to hug him. And to avoid being hugged, he jumps off the roof to his death.
Listeners, I have never related to a fictional character.
Yeah. It's just like the most introvert thing I've ever seen captured on film.
Hey, come here, buddy. His brother
Tries to hug him, and he jumps off the roof to his death.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Again, ahead of its time.
Yeah.
Very modern.
Death by attempted hug.
I wonder.
Yeah, death by attempted physical contact.
I wonder if the people who hate this story are just not fans of like feminine gothic horror.
That feels really true to me because like I am getting that it is like the idea of like it's this family and they have this dark secret and we can't, and she's like, I'd rather die, and there's this it is very like gothic,
it's very
House of Otranto.
It feels like an abridged like Bronte novel.
Yes, and it feels like a story that a lot of boys would grow up reading and being like, this is boring.
Yeah. It's like Agatha Christie meets Mary Shelley. Yeah,
basically. Like, because I know that people are like, oh yeah, gothic horror, like the Hinchcliffe Holmes thing. But like, this is more like, like Jane Eyre, like Bronte sisters, like gothic horror.
Yeah.
Where there's like a scandal and a secret
and
like a figure that's lurking in this big house and.
Yeah, I mean, maybe now that we're living in like a Crimson Peak kind of era, where I think it's become. People are taking a look at these stories in different ways. It might have been passed off as quote girly or boring before. Maybe it's worth giving the story a second look.
Yeah,
it might be more fun than you remember in the 80s.
And then they all stick around for the funeral, and then when they leave after the funeral, the lady who has I don't remember ever apologizing to the doctor for lying, and almost getting him arrested for murder. Gives him a parting gift, which is a copy of George's book that he wrote in Brazil called The Black Orchid.
Oh, yay. Thank you.
Thanks.
Just what I wanted.
This will remind me of the time that I watched a man die because he didn't want to be hugged.
Right.
Or maybe he didn't even recognize it as a hug. Maybe he just thought he was going to get hit again. Bye!
Oh, no!
You raise someone to expect only hatred, children. See? He turns to the companions. It's important that we're all kind to each other.
Adric is like, Doctor, I'd like to... No one cares what you like, Adric.
No one
cares.
God darn what you like. Give you a hug one of these days.
Oh my god.
I'll hug you right out of the TARDIS. Oh man.
See, the idea of 13 having like 3 companions is something that I'm looking forward to now, because I think about moments like this or even last week. Like I get to say she now. The doctor is like interesting things happen when they're in like a big group.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Throw a little robot dog in there, and you got television gold.
True.
Oh man, that was day-changing news.
I know.
Should have saved it for the end.
Oh man.
But anyway, yeah.
Can you imagine if I had somehow gone all summer without hearing that, and then like he pops up in like the premiere, and I just like lose my mind.
I hope that I hope she tracks down K9, knowing that he's on Earth.
Right.
And then it's just like, you know, like I'm putting a team together, and K9's just like, I know some people. Like, it's just
they're just friends that he's made along over the years.
I know some people, mistress. And then just...
Well, I'd do anything for K9. He baptized my daughter.
Yeah, and that's who all the companions are. They're all just friends of K9.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
The premiere is called K9 and Company.
Yeah, K9 and Company. Finally.
Yeah. Anyway.
So yeah, good story.
Good.
Don't agree with the reputation.
Yeah. It's a lot of fun, and it's only 2 episodes. Like, lighten up, people.
Yeah. Come on.
If this was 6 episodes, then I'd understand. But like,
right,
then I'd be like, guys, come on, because it would just be 5 episodes of the Doctor being like trapped in the basement,
right, in a robe.
That's not so bad.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
Yeah, that doesn't sound like the worst thing ever.
Yeah, fair enough. So that's it. Next week we've got the 2 Doctors, which is going to be fun. So we get a it's a 6 Doctor story, but it's also a 2nd Doctor story.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that's going to be fun.
That's awesome. I'm so excited.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that's the. Is that the no? There's one more Robert Holmes. There's like a couple more Robert Holmes stories, right?
No, this is the last. No, yeah, you're right.
No, he's got 2 in Trial of a Time Lord, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So anyway, it's one of the last ones though. But 2 Doctors next week.
Lots of eating in that one too. Now that I'm thinking about it.
I like that. All right, so something to look forward to in the 2 Doctors. In the meantime, if you're on Facebook, make sure that you join the Doctor's Companion listener group there, and let's share some Doctor Who memes and articles and things like that. Let's talk about Doctor Who, talk about the new episodes and things. Go check that out. Also follow us on Twitter if you're not already, and check out the other podcasts at duelinggenre.com. Also, check out our Patreon page, duelinggenre.com/support. It is, look, the Patreon, it's really helpful. If you want us, like I recently found out that, that this is one of our highest rated shows on Dueling Genre. And, as far as, listenership is concerned. And I feel like that's not, a lot of you aren't going to the Patreon. And we have a goal there that is a TDC exclusive goal. Mm-hmm. If more of you become patrons, we will do more TDC related material for the Patreon. And we probably won't take breaks anymore. If this feels like it's like a primary show, but for so long, like, everyone's been so quiet listening to this show, and we've just been like steadily crawling up in the numbers, which I just wasn't even aware of. And then I checked the numbers and I was like, what in the world? Where'd all these people come from? So help us out on the Patreon and help us make this show a little more often. And we'll definitely turn out for you. We'll do more stuff with this show if you help us out over there. Let us know if maybe you just don't like the idea of the goal that we have. And if you don't, that's fine too. Give us some ideas.
Yeah.
We'll listen. We'll do stuff. So let us know there. And that's duelinggenre.com/support. We really appreciate it. You have no idea how much just your $5 a month helps everything that we do at Dueling Genre, and would help so much this show. And we could make t-shirts, we could do all of that stuff, but we just need more Patreon money. So if you guys if you love what we're doing here and you want to support us, we would appreciate it.